A lot of times when people talk about the essentials of life, they mention food, clothing, and shelter. And of course, shelter is very important because it covers us, it gives us somewhere to live and somewhere to stay. Too often, many of us who have shelter, you kind of take it for granted and don't be very cognizant of the need for shelter for everybody. So I'm so happy that there is an organization in this community that's very concerned about shelter for everybody, even those who are not rich and don't have a lot of money, but this organization understands that shelter is important. And the name of this organization is Habitat for Humanity. I like the way that rolls off of my tongue. Habitat for Humanity. Not only does it sound good, but it is good and it has a good purpose. This is a call to action.
A call to action.
I'm your host, Alex Habersham. You did that very well today.
Thank you.
And we have with us the Executive Director of Habitat for Humanity in the person of Miss Ivy Hall. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you for coming on the show. We've heard, Habitat for Humanity has been around a while, but not everybody understands. It has a good sounding name, Habitat Humanity, and it rolls real good. So talk a little bit generally, after you tell us a little about yourself, then let's talk a little bit generally about the general purpose and mission of Habitat for Humanity.
Okay.
Let's talk about you first.
Okay. Well, I have lived in Macon for almost 14 years now. My husband and I moved here from Tallahassee. He went to law school at Mercer, and we decided that Macon was home pretty quickly. I worked with Goodwill for about 10 years and then had an opportunity to move into the executive director position at Habitat. I had served on the board with Habitat for a couple of years,
Right.
and just felt like it was a great place to move and to work, and the mission is just incredible. As you said, making sure that individuals have shelter, which is such an important part of life. And our focus with Habitat is really working with low-income individuals. So somebody that may not be able to go into a bank and get a traditional home loan, but somebody that really wants to make that next step in their life. They have a secure job and have been making good payments. They don't have to have perfect credit, but a good credit history, and really now want to make an investment in their family's future and become a homeowner. So our homeowners that we work with are just that. They own their home. It's not a gift. So many people think that Habitat gives away houses, but we don't. They have a mortgage. They have worked towards their house, investing 300 hours of sweat equity. So our homeowners have helped build their own houses. That allows them to get to know their house, get to know their neighbors and the neighborhood. They also invest their time in the neighborhood that they're moving into by getting involved in activities. And then they go through a full closing, just like anybody else, and have a 20-year mortgage. But the catch is it's a 0% interest mortgage.
Wow.
So they are paying principal only, and really have made a huge investment in their family's future.
That's very outstanding. And I'm glad you kind of cleared that up, because I know oftentimes when you see information or advertising or a story on somebody who has a house or who has moved into a Habitat for Humanity house, a lot of people have the impression that the house is donated, but it's not donated.
It is not.
Yeah.
The materials and some of the cost of the house are sponsored through Habitat, but then when that individual starts making their mortgage payments, those mortgage payments help us build future houses.
Okay.
So
Okay.
their payment isn't just going to sit in a bank. It's actually reinvested and helps us continue to build houses.
Okay, let's talk about the beginning, the origin. We've heard a lot about it over the years, and I I understand, didn't President Carter have something to do with it?
So that's another one of our big myths. We have two
Okay.
big myths of
I
habitat,
like-
so we're
I
going
like
to take
the
care of
myth.
them right away.
Yep.
President Carter is Habitat's most famous volunteer. He actually got involved a little bit down the road after Habitat was already started. Habitat was started in Americus, so just south of Macon.
America's Georgia.
Americus, Georgia.
Wow.
Yes. It was started at a place called Koinonia Farms. So some people may recognize the term koinonia. That was the winning word at the National Spelling Bee this year. So Koinonia Farms is located just outside of Americus. You can still go and visit today. And it was a place where Linda and Millard Fuller actually went to visit. It's part of their travels. And when they went to visit Koinonia, they realized what can happen when a community comes together to support each other. Koinonia Farms has an incredible history in social justice and was really a big part of the civil rights movement in Georgia. And as they spent more and more time there, they realized that more could be done. And if a community came together, you could really make incredible changes. And they really started to focus on the idea of community housing.
Oh, wow.
So how can a community come together to help build a house and help support the housing infrastructure of a community? And so they started, some of the original houses are still there. And then as it grew and grew, more and more places adopted the idea of Habitat for Humanity and the idea of a community coming together to support housing.
Now, did they started the organization, named it, and things of that nature because...
They did.
Yeah.
The
And what are their
Fullers,
names?
Linda and Millard Fuller.
Okay.
So husband and wife, they traveled all over the country, and we in Macon have a unique relationship with the Fullers because actually one of their sons lives here in Macon.
Wow.
And there's an organization called the Fuller Center for Housing that we work closely with Diane Fuller, who's actually running that organization, and they are also addressing housing needs here in Macon.
That's so very important. And let's talk about, oftentimes individuals look for the opportunity to give back to the community. For example, last night at the expo that we had, there's a guy named Matt McKenna,
Okay.
who's an executive, was an executive with the corporation. But there's an organization for businesses that's called SCORE,
Yes.
which is the Service Corps of Retired Executives. So this executive, thought it would not be robbery if he were to give back, some of his expertise and knowledge as it relates to business.
Okay.
So SCORE helps businesses. And where I'm going with that is that, I have seen that, a lot of different people and organizations, individuals come together to build these houses.
They do.
And I'm trying to suggest to some people out there that maybe they could get involved. Let's talk about the building of the house, how that's
Okay.
pulled together and who's involved and how somebody else could be involved.
Okay.
Because there are a lot of contractors or artisans out there
Right.
who got skills.
Right.
And then talk a little bit, include whether or not you could use them.
We can always use volunteers. Our houses are built primarily by volunteers. There are a couple of things where we have to bring in our licensed subcontractors for, we want to make sure our
Code,
electrical,
yeah, for
HVAC,
code, yeah,
yes, make sure we meet all of those code requirements. But as far as a lot of the work on the house, it is done by volunteers. So we have individuals that volunteer. We have a wonderful volunteer right now, and she loves to paint. So she comes and spends the afternoons with us and paints inside and does touch-up paint. But then we have large groups that want to come and volunteer with us. We will set aside an entire day, and we can have up to 60 volunteers, especially when it's time to put down sod. We can have volunteers come in, work with us, and we can sod an entire yard in under 3 hours if we
Wow.
have enough volunteers.
Wow.
So it runs the full scope, and if a volunteer has skills, we love to put them to work. We have one volunteer that loves to work with us on some of the true woodworking pieces of it, building the decks, and some of that part of the work. But then we have other volunteers that come to us and say, I've never lifted a hammer. And we'll teach them how to do that. We love to have them. So we have just finished up a project called Women Build. And we do 2 weeks of teams that are primarily women, sponsored by local companies. So they give their employees an opportunity to come out, spend the day with us.
Wow.
And we had some of our volunteers that come out that walked onto the job site, knew exactly what to do, and got straight to work under the leadership of our construction staff. We had a couple of others that had never held a hammer before. And by the end of the day, they were putting up siding.
Oh, wow.
So we will work with anybody, and we love to get people involved because it's an opportunity to see the mission and to be a part of it, and to really help build a house, and then a year from now drive by and see the house and see the homeowner and their family enjoying the work that they put in.
Right. So that's so very, very important. Now let's talk about, when we come back, we're gonna take a break, but let's talk about, how to qualify, what kind of inventory there is for housing, and other information that will be very, very crucial, because I'm sure that we've got both volunteers and people out there who are interested in owning their own home, because we began the program by talking about shelter. This is a call to action.
A call to action.
I'm Alex Habersham, interviewing Ms. Ivy Hall, Executive Director of Habitat for Humanity, and we're having an uplift fireside conversation, about Habitat for Humanity, its mission, purpose, and a lot of the good things that they are doing in our community. So let's talk about, let's clear up the Jimmy Carter thing.
Okay.
Because, I know he's been involved, but he's not the founder.
Correct. He is not the founder. Linda and Millard Fuller were the founders of Habitat, and led it for many, many years. And Habitat now is an international organization working with housing all over the world.
Okay. But he loves Habitat for Humanity, and he has volunteered.
Yes, he and Rosalind both.
Right.
They volunteer every year on a Jimmy and Rosalind Carter build.
Wow. That's very good, and I like President Carter, and take my hat off to how involved he has been.
Yes.
Not only in Habitat, but other initiatives all over the world that he is, in which he has been involved. Okay, now, so let's talk a little bit about inventory. Let's talk a little bit, we want to talk about the houses that are available, that could be available, or how it's determined that a house is going to be built, land, etc. And then we're going to talk about the application process.
Okay. Right now, we are focusing our work in 2 neighborhoods. For the last 13 years, we have focused in Linmore Estates. So out off of Broadway, it used to be called the Peach Orchard. That's how a lot of people know it. It's a wonderful World War II era neighborhood that fell into hard times. And about 13 years ago, somebody donated a piece of property to Habitat right in the middle of the neighborhood. And our board and executive director at the time saw what could be. They realized that this 10th Street neighborhood could really be transformed if we focused all of our efforts in this one location, instead of building here and there around the city, as we've done before that. So we have built almost 50 homes in the neighborhood.
Wow.
Yes. Another big focus has been blight removal. Blight is such an issue all around Macon-Bibb County, and so we have been focusing on that. Our goal is to get to a 60% home ownership rate within the neighborhood. When we started, it was about a 20% home ownership rate. So we want 60% home ownership rate, but more important, we want the blight rate down between 5 and 8%, Because we know when you get rid of the blight in the neighborhood, it really has a ripple effect.
Right.
The existing homeowners, longtime homeowners, even renters really start to take more pride when they're not looking across the street and seeing an overgrown,
Absolutely.
blighted property.
Absolutely.
So we have a goal over the next 3 years to build 12 more houses in the neighborhood,
Inland Moore State.
in Linmore Estates, right? But to clear 50 blighted lots.
Wow.
So we will be working with donors and with Macon-Bibb County to make all of that happen.
Now, do you use volunteers only for the building of the houses, but on other projects, do you use volunteers?
Well, we have a whole nother area that we work on, and that's the full neighborhood revitalization. So we know quality of life is a big part of that. So we involve volunteers in neighborhood cleanups.
Yeah.
We have volunteers that help with a tutoring program called Path to Shine in the neighborhood. They help with senior aging in place programs, weatherization programs. So any way that we can get a volunteer involved. We have a meditation garden right in the middle of the neighborhood that was built by volunteers. And we have a group that's just adopted it and said they want to help us maintain it.
A meditation
A
garden?
meditation garden.
Talk
yes.
about that. What is that?
So we have 2 pieces of property that were blighted, overgrown, right in the middle of Linmore Estates. And there was a vision for a peaceful place right in the middle of this neighborhood. And so we worked with Lowe's through a national grant and transformed these 2 blighted lots into a peaceful place right in the middle of Linmore Estates. There's a labyrinth, there's a covered seating area, and it's really just a place where people, anybody in the neighborhood
I
can
gotta get
come.
that address, because, you know.
Well, it's open to anybody, so you can stop by.
Okay, now, how does one qualify? So now, right now, you're only building in Linmore State.
Started in Pleasant Hill as well.
Girl, you busy.
We are busy.
Yeah, that's so outstanding, and I'm one who, you know, it's just kind of interesting to talk about how initiatives such as this can improve the entire community, not only just the neighborhood, because it could influence other communities.
Right.
You know, you don't have to be a part of a Habitat for Humanity to generate an initiative to remove a blight
Right.
and things of that nature, or to find a piece of property in the neighborhood and put together a meditation park.
That's
You
right.
know, so I think it's a phenomenal activity. Okay, so talk a little bit about how one qualifies for Habitat.
Okay. We have an application process. So that's the first way to start, is to pick up an application from our office or on our website. And the application process really walks you through the criteria for home ownership. We look for a willingness to partner. As I mentioned, all of our homeowners work on their house. They invest sweat equity. So we want to make sure that all of our applicants know that up front, that we ask them to complete 300 hours of sweat equity. We look for a demonstrated need. Are they in substandard housing now? Housing that's too small for their family, or that's just not energy efficient, so their energy bills are really high. Somebody that may be in public housing and it's ready to transition into home ownership.
Wow.
So we look for that need for housing, and then we look for ability to pay. They are going to have a mortgage, so we want to make sure that they're going to be successful. We don't want to set anybody up for struggles down the road. So we look at their income now, some type of stable income. That may be employment, it may be assistance of some type, but looking at that stable income, looking at the debt that they have now. And again, the credit score doesn't have to be perfect, but we want to make sure that there's a good credit history.
Right.
That even if they've run into hard times in the past, that they're working towards paying it off and improving it. So we look at those things. All of our homeowners fall between 25 and 60% the area median income. That number is set by HUD, by the federal government for our area. So we look in that income range. And then we have a homeowner selection committee that reviews the application. They look at their credit history. They're loan originators, so these are certified professionals that are looking at it because we are issuing a mortgage, so we follow all the same mortgage rules that any bank would. And then we do a home visit. We want to make sure that we know our potential homeowners, so get to know them a little bit better, look at their goals for home ownership. And then our board does the final approval for all of our homeowners based on all the information that we've collected. But we're willing to work with
So
individuals.
you're telling me now that you all have built 50 homes in Linmore Estate?
Linmore Estates alone, we've built almost 120 in Macon.
Wow. So now, you've been in business long enough to where you're handing keys and burning mortgages at the same time.
We are, and I will tell you, mortgage burnings are so exciting. We had a homeowner just last week that came in, paid off her house.
Last payment, and there is nothing better than seeing a homeowner reach that goal. I think that is a goal that everybody can relate to. Everybody that owns a home. I hope one day to be able to pay off my house. So I look at them, with envy, and then we bring them all together. Everybody that's paid off a mortgage, as we dedicate a house, we want to celebrate those individuals as well, and give them an opportunity to burn their mortgage in front of an audience and celebrate their accomplishments. So that's very good and very interesting because it's kind of cyclical.
Yes.
You're building houses and handing out keys, and you're starting mortgages, and you're burning mortgages also. Do you have any? Well, we're going to talk some about some specific individuals that you want to talk about. Who have had success. You don't necessarily have to call their names, but I'm sure there are situations
Yes.
that have occurred that you would like to share with our audience. This is a call to action.
A call to
We're
action.
just talking about all the phenomenal things that Habitat for Humanity is doing. And, we're going to talk a little bit about a couple of specific stories. I know, Ms. Hall, you just mentioned Pleasant Hill. And let me just say a couple of things about Pleasant Hill. Pleasant Hill is a phenomenal neighborhood.
It is.
I remember when I was growing up, all the teachers and the doctors and everybody else lived in Pleasant Hill. And see, that's a good thing about community and building a sense of community that Habitat is doing. Because those individuals, and like the guy who was the principal of Ballard Hudson, he lived in Pleasant Hill. My homeroom teacher, lived in Pleasant Hill. The doctors lived in Pleasant Hill. So I'm just so happy to see revitalization, if you please,
There is.
of Pleasant Hill. And I understand that you all had a house over there that you had built in Pleasant Hill and went through the whole cycle.
Yes. Well, we actually have our first house that our Habitat affiliate ever built is in Pleasant Hill.
Wow.
And so it is, we have worked with the homeowner there for many years, and it's just a great feeling to be able to come back, and we are so thrilled to be a part of the revitalization of Pleasant Hill. There are incredible groups doing such great things in the neighborhood, and so I'm happy that Habitat is going to be able to do our part to continue that revitalization moving forward. And I love that you mentioned educators, because our homeowner that's moving in, she'll be one of the newest homeowners in Pleasant Hill, is a teacher.
Wow.
And so we actually went this past weekend to the Pleasant Hill reunion that's held every year.
Yeah, it was Saturday, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to go to that. Was it good?
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
So we stopped by briefly, and our new homeowner met us over there. Her house is still under construction. And I have to say, Sheridan Construction is building that house for us. They're right there in Pleasant Hill as well.
Right.
And they're building that house as part of their 70th anniversary. So it's a gift to Habitat and to our new homeowner.
Wow.
But the new homeowner came by. She has 3 children. And as she walked through the reunion, she had so many of her students coming up and saying hello, and that they were glad that she was going to be in the neighborhood. And so I love the fact that she is continuing the history of Pleasant Hill as an educator living in the neighborhood.
Wow, wow. So now she's moving into it.
She will be, yes.
Okay, she'll be moving into it. And then was the mortgage burning that you had, have you gone through the whole cycle with a house in Pleasant Hill?
We have, now I have to say, we didn't get to do a mortgage burning with her. She has paid off her mortgage, but we took a break and have just started back up doing mortgage burning. So we didn't get to do a burning with her, but she's...
You might not have put a fire to it, but it's more.
It is, yes.
Once you pay it off, it's
paid
burned.
off. Yes, it is paid off. So it is, it's great to see the cycle and be back in the neighborhood.
Well, let me tell you something. It is with such a pleasure that I've had this opportunity to interview you and to impart additional information about Habitat. So talk a little bit about additional information and how one can find more information on Habitat, the phone number and
Sure.
the website and what's on it.
Okay, well, our website is maconhabitat.org. So pretty easy to remember. If you Google Habitat Macon, Georgia, we'll pop right up. We're also on Facebook, so you can look for us there. And our phone number is 478-745-0630. And that'll get you connected with the office. We also have our restore there, so a place where people can come and shop for construction materials. So lots of things happening. And we're located on Holt Avenue. So right across the railroad tracks from the Red Cross building and from Davis Wholesale, right on Holt Avenue.
Right.
So we're the office is open Monday through Friday and the store's open Tuesday through Saturday.
So you got a place where people can buy construction material?
We do. So individuals can donate used construction materials. If you're remodeling a bathroom, call us. We'll come pick up your kitchen or your sink, your toilet, any tile. We'll pick up large pieces of furniture, appliances, all of that. We'll come pick it up as you're remodeling, and then we sell it in our store.
That to help support your
It does.
mission.
Yes.
Oh, that is so outstanding.
Yes.
Okay, well, you've heard it from the executive director herself, Miss Ivy Hall of Habitat for Humanity. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You all are doing a phenomenal job. And then if in fact you're interested in supporting or receiving support from Habitat for Humanity, go to the website and give them a call. This is a call to action.
A call to action.
I'm your host, Alex Habersham. Have a great day.